Hello, everybody, and welcome to the weird world of knowing. We're back today with a very local guy for me. Anyway, he's over in Bolton. Oh, the event is over in Bolton. I don't think you're actually over in Bolton, are you, Stephen?
No, Trannock Richard, which is the other side of Chorley.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not too far, is it? It's not too
No, not
far
too far.
from Bury.
No.
So, welcome Stephen Robinson from It's Mental. Today we're going to talk about It's Mental, but specifically about an event that you're putting on in June because it's quite big for this area. It's in a really beautiful place at Rivington Pike, and I'm going to let you tell us a little bit more about it. But before we do, tell us a little bit more about Stephen Robinson and what's your background first, and how did you come to be doing
Yeah,
something
well,
called It's Mental?
yeah, well, I've had 13 years I was CEO founded and was CEO of a digital marketing agency, a full service agency as they call it. So doing all things digital. Started in the year 2000, which was surreal in itself doing digital marketing then and I worked on the first World Cup website
Oh,
actually in
wow.
1998 in relation to a few media groups as well.
Mm.
So, it was probably the first commercial site that was like had banners on it and things like that was paid advertising.
Wow.
So them days will all dial up and stuff like that. So it was hard to do, but yeah, it was a good year. And then 2012, I got a bit of itchy feet just because I was very curious because about cybersecurity. A lot of websites were being hacked into, and we were doing quite big websites then. So it intrigued me a lot.
Mm.
So, and the team, the board of directors bought me out, and I went to Lancaster University to start a cybersecurity company doing professional hacking and reporting and looking at internal risk and people, really.
Mm.
So I become one of only four. There's a lot more now, but at the time, 2013, there was only four of us in the country that was GCHQ certified
Wow.
as trainers to go up and down the country,
Mm.
advising like directors of different boardrooms, the difference between physical and digital assets and stuff like that. So
How were
I
you
did over.
received?
Sorry.
How were you received with you being
No,
only a
it,
few then?
well, it was a big transition
Mm.
because people think physical assets were worth more and your
Mm.
insurances were all based around physical assets. And it's only been a last shift in the last ten years that it's gone more to digital assets and data and, where all the people's IP belongs, intellectual property belongs within companies now is more digital than ever. So it was how you mitigate risk about that and how you protect that. And, a lot of companies going around 2010, even before that, but 2010, 2014, there was a massive spike.
Mm.
If you remember, all the banks were getting done
Yeah.
all the time, phishing emails constantly. I mean, we were in the art of that, trying to fend everything off. So, yeah, I mean, I trained over 200 boards up and down the country, in Europe as well. I've done keynote speaking at French Embassy twice.
Wow.
I spoke at Whitehall in London,
Wow.
Kuwait. I did a conference in Kuwait. So yeah, I mean, cybersecurity, I worked technical. The funny
Mm.
thing is I'm not technical, but it was all the people side I became an expert. Yeah, and then I got some investors to grow it, but it just didn't work out. I mean, it's like anything in life, you feel that I wanted it to grow, and the whole thing was to build something special and sell it on. But it just these people that I got on board were just not on the same page as me, and
Right.
there's a lot of emotion goes into starting a business,
Yeah.
as most people know, and
Absolutely. Blood,
pain and
tears, and sweat, isn't it?
yeah,
There's so
yeah,
many years that go into it and such passion you've got to have to keep it going.
yeah, definitely. So when things aren't going right, see, the boardroom was my domain, obviously, because I trained them and I
Mm.
become quite confident in that arena. But I got to a stage where I was getting so much anxiety walking into my own boardroom
Right.
of my own company. because, I didn't feel wanted. I thought changes were going to, happen. And it was awful, an awful time where really the investment was really to take us to a different level. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And grow us and be a challenge for taking on, larger corporations and stuff like that. But it just, I had to get out. I had to protect myself emotionally and spiritually as
Yeah.
well. You know what I mean? And listen
Yeah.
to make some decisions, and intuition and gut feel and all these things that we should be listening to. I did. And really, when I went home and told my wife that, I was asking to buy me out,
Yeah.
she was totally shocked. But I just thought there was no future with these guys. And then the same year, I lost my brother anyway, as well, on 2018, which was hard. It was an hard year,
Yeah.
2018. So I suffered towards the end of the burnout, without
Yeah.
a shadow of a doubt. I just couldn't do the things. I couldn't function. I weren't thinking simple tasks, like picking up a phone and stuff like that, like I used to. It
Yeah.
was a bizarre, surreal moments, which, we're trying to learn what my brother went through on all the frustrations. My brother didn't want to help himself at all.
Right.
He was a functioning alcoholic, and he was in denial.
Yeah.
But I just went for help straight away. I went for counselling straight away, so I went for CBT counselling. It helped me tremendously and
Yeah.
opened up straight away, which I was quite proud of. But if you can hear me in the background, talk to me. Just kind of
Keeping you
talk to me.
company.
Keeping me company, yeah. So when it came to like the end of the counselling sessions, I just thought I didn't have the tools or anything to move forward.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is not right, and I just could see society having been in a washing machine type approach, which is life's always going to chuck adversity at us in some way. That's life. But if you resort to just going to the GP for medication reviews and the first hand is counselling, how are you going to sustain that? How are you going to sustain that and prolong it?
Yeah.
And I really studied that side of it. So I went back to Lancaster and went through a few workshops, which were person-centered approach to well-being. So I created some programs with Lancaster, which were physical, and it's all pre-COVID. And it was really trying to get people. So I worked with David Lloyd gyms, actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it was doing sessions based on five steps or 5 ways to well-being, over 12 weeks. It was a 12-week program. And then we did a challenge at the end of it. And that worked quite well. And it was to understand how people reacted to certain things, do you know what I mean? And tasks and stuff like that. And it was always in my mind to get people to do different things or change routine habits, and more the prevention side, because I really found it, it's near enough impossible to change a system like the NHS. There's good, bad, and the indifferent. But
But your
I just thought,
environment is key, isn't it, Stephen?
yeah,
Whether it's your
it is.
external environment, which you found when you were working in your own company and you're in the board, that external environment was becoming really toxic for you. And then it starts to completely affect our internal environment of how we can function, doesn't it? So our environment is massive.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think also it's, the thing that upsets me most, and especially, what I saw my brother, people are prepared to suffer in silence for prolonged periods of time and think it's the norm, or they think they should do, or they're being punished. And it's how we can promote action, you know what I mean? Some action of doing things. And I know it's hard, I've not been depressed as such. I think I've had times of depression in small doses, and I've been very lucky. But the anxiety, the chronic anxiety I had walking in certain situations, so I've had them feelings. I understand it, and I thought, I don't want, you don't want other people to go through this.
No.
There should be ways that we can prevent it. And what was really fortunate is when I was in cyber, we created a system called Mitigate, which was mitigating risk for employees. So it's an online learning platform. And it was teaching people on bite-sized learning, scenario-based learning to understand information security because it's quite complicated.
Yeah.
And understanding if you do this or you don't do this, this is what could happen. And I learned so much from Lancaster University and all the different faculties over that period of time. And I just thought to myself, there's something in this that mental health and well-being could pick this up. We could create something. And I've always been fortunate. I've had a coach, mainly in business,
Mm.
and I know that's a privilege. And I've been very fortunate. I've had some really, and I know how that helped me
Yeah.
in so many tough times with business. And I thought coaching is the key to creating this longevity because the main thing we lack as human beings in a lot of things is accountability and discipline. And I'll be the first one to hold up is accountability. I hate it. My free spirit. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
more of a free spirit. I'm very creative. So when people try and pin you down on things, it's very alien. But that
Go with you on
yeah, and you need somebody to do that for you and bring you to line or be accountable for the business for you. So you do need this yin yang sort of approach to it.
You do.
Uh,
And it's fair, and I think a lot of us forget as we get older, don't we? Especially if we've got kids, or we remember back to our own childhood. We needed coaches for football and dance
yeah,
and swimming and all those things that you need help to be able to do those skills effectively and to carry on effectively going through life. We have to adapt new skills to everything that we do moving forward, whether that be work, whether that be social, whether that be relationships, whether that be any aspect. We still need that coaching. And it's a huge ask, I think, isn't it, when we expect that just from family and friends, because friends and family are an absolute privilege and we should be enjoying those, but we put an awful lot of pressure on each other to be that support. And most people crumble really under the pressure of that
yeah,
when
yeah,
that's all
yeah.
going on, hence probably the situation with your brother. He obviously felt that he couldn't talk to anyone at the time because of what he was going through, and it's so hard to witness.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think so many people and families gone through that process like we did. And I did lose my brother-in-law as well, 2016 as well, but that was just a complete shock. That was life and soul of the party. 1 minute he's there, 1 minute he's not.
Wow.
So we've had both ends of it, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of unanswered questions, especially for my sister, obviously.
Yeah.
But and that stays with you for a long time. So the thing with this is it becomes well, not an obsession. You can get obsessed with it. I've not been obsessed with it, but I have studied it as much as I possibly can
Yeah.
to understand, how we can intervene or engage.
Mm.
And nobody can really say what's going on in people's minds
Mm.
unless obviously they're
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah.
But if you can engage people earlier and that prevention piece again,
Yeah.
that is key. Um, and I think that is where the NHS is just failing
Complete.
society.
I
Um,
mean, just from the people that I'm picking up from the NHS that literally just can't get in, there's years waiting list for people to come in, and yet when they come in to see people like myself, and we're able to fit them in quickly, and they only need a couple of sessions to get themselves back online, back on track,
yeah,
and take skills away, it's making a huge difference to society. But we're not
mm,
the norm. And so all credit for what you're doing in bringing everything that we do into the weird world that we live in making it more normal.
well, thank you. I mean, the main thing is a couple of things just dawned on me. Call it, epiphany or things. The name came to me because up north, people do say it's mental.
Yeah.
quite a lot.
Well, it's mental.
Yeah, and it's quite funny how often that comes about.
Yeah.
But also, we just thought society is, at the minute, it is mental. The world we live in is quite mental. But also, you know, um, there's a lot about we are mental
Mm,
spiritually. You know, it starts with mental thoughts. It starts with thoughts. Thoughts equals feelings. Feelings equals actions. And when people break it down into negative and positive thoughts, and them are the battles that people have,
mm,
obviously with these negative thought cycles, as you know, and how to break them, and how to try and upset them or how to move forward with them. And there's all different techniques, as you know, to that, and everyone's different. But what I came to the conclusion is so many people are different in so many levels
mm,
in the situation they've been in, or what the situation they've had, or what the trigger is, or how it's affecting them,
mm.
um, and how they want to move forward, if they do want to move forward. So there's no golden program. There's no golden program that is suits all people.
No, and I think as we're going through life, just with the work guide, you start off with sort of one thing and it leads you on to another because we're curious and we want to try new things. So if you're trying yoga and then you suddenly go and you find someone that does emotional freedom technique and tapping, or you then need to go and have some Reiki or whatever it might be that comes next, it's a really
Yeah,
natural progression of being curious, what's open to possibility, and helping with ease your body and your mind flow from one thing to the next instead of keep hammering the same thing over and over and over again when you might just need a break from it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think I think you learn. I mean, we'll watch men personally. One that really calmed me down and made me get clearer thoughts
Mm,
was meditation.
mm,
So, that I'd never even asked me um, before my breakdown. I wouldn't have thought about doing meditation, but I had a racing mind. I closed my eyes and they were just flickering of images like you're scrolling on a phone.
yeah.
And I knew I had to try and calm that down. So, I'm quite proud with myself that I never went on medication. Not saying medication's a bad thing. People need it. It balances them out. But if we feel that we can stay without it, uh, better natural things that
Just
help
give us
us.
an idea of how you managed to incorporate that into your everyday life. Was that every day? Was it every morning? How did you fit that in?
Yeah, so it was twice a day. So I built it up. I mean, the minute, meditation, a lot of people will probably relate to spirituality. So, which it is. Um, and the main thing about it is for me is um, just that calmness and being present. And, like they say, we worry about the past and that gives us depression
Mm,
because we're worried about the past, and anxieties of thinking about stuff that's going to possibly happen in the future.
mm,
And your safe place or helps you is that present moment, that stillness and calming the mind down. And I think that was my goal. Now,
mm.
I only started doing 5 minutes a day because my concentration span
Yeah.
was really bad. And I still don't think it's great, but I do at the minute. I've studied different forms of meditation.
Mm,
I used apps a lot, one called
mm,
Breathe,
yeah.
which was brilliant. Um, but then, because I was guided,
Mm,
using guided, I did a course, a TM course, a
mm,
transcendental meditation, which is obviously having a mantra. It's based around 20 minutes, twice a day. And you have to build up to that.
yeah.
Um, and I got up to that quite easy, but the transformation was tremendous. And the things that come to you in thought, in in the morning to me, I could go and wake up and I might write down a list from the night before for what I'm going to do,
Mm,
work wise. and I meditate in the morning, that priority would change.
Yeah.
And I would go off that priority.
Yeah.
And I'm not stuck with it 20 minutes twice a day religiously.
Yeah.
I haven't. I have my things where I drop off and I'm only human, but I will get back on it. I'm on it again now.
Mm.
Uh, I do more grounding now, um, where I'm outside, especially this time of year is brilliant.
Yeah. It's beautiful, isn't it?
So I do believe a lot in that, grounding and meditation. So twice a day, but I think the key is for me is what I get from it is just really calms me down, so stops any anxiety. Um, and I think the quicker you can get that, because you're going to get it, we're always going to have anxiety. It's never going to go away. It's just, but what are the symptoms like anything else?
Yeah.
Does it take over you physically? And how can you control it? And I think meditation, once you've done it long enough, I've done it like since 2018. So it'll be like, coming up to 5 years.
Mm.
And that's my biggest tool in my box.
Yeah.
That's would be my go-to. And then I've got videos around that.
Yeah.
And I always use our system. I go on our system. Our system's a prevention platform. So going on self-help sessions, I've got me in my self-help sessions that other coaches do
Mm.
that gives me an exercise, one simple exercise that just helps me, refocus, makes me calm down, makes me realize that it's just negative chatter, and not to let it take over,
Mm.
and they definitely not start making decisions and actions from their negative thoughts.
Yeah.
I think that is the key. And I think when I see, and probably you see and hear, people doing things off negative thoughts or going down that downward spiral, they are listening to their negative thoughts constantly.
They are, and it projects into their whole life as well. So
Mm.
it projects onto their family, friends, and their community and their work. And for that community and colleagues and family to have to pick up those pieces, they can have a tendency to think that it's theirs to carry. But actually it's not. I think we all have this responsibility to self to start looking at what we are projecting onto others and sort of bring it back and go, do I really need to do that? Do I really need to give that, all of that anger that I'm feeling, all of that anxiety that I'm feeling, to somebody else so that I can feel better momentarily? Because like you say, it's the longevity of these feelings that we are looking to sustain and keep in our life and move forward, which you were struggling with after your sort of CBT, you were saying, to then propel yourself forward and carry on. So you've created It's Mental, and you've got this fantastic team around you now who are creating a beautiful area for people to dip in and out of, but also with events as well. And that's how we've got to know each other.
Yeah.
Through your event over at Rivington. So tell us about that, because I'm very excited about this event that you're putting on.
Yeah, well, can I just step back before I get to the event? The reason why
Yeah.
we're doing the events. I think, I've always been into tech. I think tech's a great thing to ease people's lives, but also it's taking over.
Mm.
As we know, there's a lot of people now within families and the children, that it just take over children's lives, and it depends like anything, what they're watching, what they're listening to. And I think it is, as I've got two children, 8 and 12, you're fighting with that tech all the time. And I think one reason we wanted to do with the family wellbeing event is, get back to some traditional time, really, some present time with the family. And you can see that's diminished
Yeah.
over the last, 30 years. And how can we get back to that? And I think, we've had this awareness over COVID about well-being, and especially in the workplace since COVID. And work-life balance is paramount. But also it's about understanding families, but giving them opportunities outside the normal. norm or
Yeah.
home to different environments where they can bond
Yeah.
and bond in a different situation where, is a challenge, or
Yeah.
it's a different activity, or it's trying different therapies, or
Mm.
movement, or, things like that, that they're experiencing things together.
Mm.
And it's seeing mum and dad in a different role,
Yeah.
where, because we get in these routines and you probably see mum and dad in this way, how busy we are, the
Mm.
lifestyles of most people. It's probably an hour and a half a night, maybe an hour.
Yeah.
And that's just probably passing on the landing or the corridors or
Mm.
what have you. But they're not sitting down having meals like we used to have
Mm.
and seeing how life's going on. It's got to get to a stage where somebody's upset with school, or they're not performing, or they're feeling sick, or something's happening, until you start to realize and sit down and have a conversation
Yeah.
about these things. It's like, again, we're in the horses bolted type of
Yeah.
thing. And I think really we've got to create an environment. And it's why the family wellbeing event is to create that
Yeah.
environment. But also there's so much out there prevention wise. So prevention is better than cure.
Mm.
That's a key thing. That's not our motto. We live
Mm.
by that.
Yeah.
But it's the NHS motto.
Yeah.
It's the social services motto. It's HMRC's motto,
Yeah.
believe it or not. So everybody nationally, but
Really?
no one's really adhering.
Yeah.
No one's really adhering to it. So I thought, well, we have to take that by the horns and live by that.
Mm.
And we try and do that. And I think once you study with these events, we need, yes, going back to tech, our platform helps people facilitate things. It gives them ease of access, 24/7, 365. It engages them early in the process because they
Mm.
don't have that saying the call's not too big,
Yeah.
or it could be too big for people. Walking in A&E and all them things, or engaging with friends is too much, but
Mm.
managing it on their own or
Yeah.
engaging, fine. And that's what we do. But you've got to get people out there, you know, being, so we call it social connection. We call it self-help learning or
Mm.
self-care, and then being socially active again.
Yeah.
And that's the transformation and 3 steps that
Yeah.
we feel people get to, they feel belonging to something, may a club, a community. It could be work, it could be a family, it could be what have you, but they're active within it again. So that's what we really believe, and the system is the connection part of that. Do you know what I mean? It's connecting people up. But the physical aspect, even that I love tech, physically we need to get out there. We're human beings, we're tribal. We need to have a community around us. I know that's not everybody, but majority of us do. So the mission is to teach 1 million people how to self-manage their mental well-being. So we have to think big, and that's why the events came. So we did an event with Bolton Wanderers Football Club in Feb this year. We had just under 1,200 people come to that event.
Fantastic.
These things are standing starts, aren't they? So it's
Yeah.
like doing a startup business within it. But they're not for profit. So we created a social enterprise called the Wellbeing Experience. And that was our way of giving back, of how can we pull communities together? Because when you do research and you're trying to get people to a service, a therapy,
Mm.
an activity, there's so much out there. Like
Mm.
if you take Bolton's community, there's so much out there. There's 1,600 CICs and charities
Yeah.
in Bolton alone.
Yeah.
Now, what starts to come apparent is, and it's same with therapies, it's same with counselling, it's same with coaching. We're all doing our bit, and we're all probably in it for the same reasons,
Yeah.
is to help people. Everyone's got probably different missions or different purposes, slightly different, but we're all working in a mission. And I think that's what I think is not getting the awareness out to the majority, because majority, if you ask most people, probably 8 out of 10, if you said you were struggling, where would you go? They would go to their GP and they would say, I'd go to some counselling, which is fine. But you would now say, well, I go out, I'll have a walk, or I meditate, or I'll ring this person, or I
Mm.
will I volunteer, I get stuck in. Do you know what I mean? There's all these things that
So many different things.
people so that you can get involved in. I thought, right, well, it's mental can become an umbrella. The name can be an umbrella for that, but we don't have to reinvent anything new. We just try and bring in everybody together.
Yeah.
And what we just need to present that in a nice way that's like, it's not just what somebody comes to it because they might be struggling and they just can't see the wood for the trees when they get to the event. So we made it very clear and precise and very zone, like
Yeah.
financial well-being zone, holistic health zone, mindful zone, physical health zone, nutrition zone, and it's all colourful, so people can relate and be navigated round
Yeah.
quite easily on where they're going to be. I think one was obviously just my background is one of the objectives with the events was to get more men engaged because the
Yeah.
stats are changing. Sorry about Luna here.
It's all right. No, I would
She
just
wants
turn the sound off for my dog.
she wants to say, I think.
Come and
And
join in.
I know. Um, so yeah, so we did this zonal. So we did 12 zones over 3 floors for the first event. We did really go for it. It took us about a year to plan.
Mm.
But we're really chuffed with it. We ended up with 32% men
Oh, that's
turning up,
brilliant.
which
That's brilliant.
and we did that by engaging through, so we spent a fair bit of time of understanding football is very tribal, it's very communal. People, families, not just men,
Yeah.
women and children go there for a release.
Yeah.
It's the present. You
Yeah.
might not think about it, but it's a bit like meditation. It's not meditation, but they are present for 90 minutes. Does that make sense? They don't have to
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to talk to fans like that, the meditation starts to come in and why they should be doing stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because yeah, I do actually.
Yeah.
Don't get me
I
wrong, they
think
probably get.
men are very good at being present, more than women, because men have this tendency just to be able to zone out and just shut down, and we'll be cackling along in their ear. Have you done this? Have you done that? What are you thinking about? Well, nothing. And we as partners sometimes struggle with that, but so very often I think men are actually able to do that more than they realize. I lost you. Are you back?
Oh,
You
yeah,
back?
sorry about that. I lost you for a second there.
It's all right. So I was just saying, I think men have a tendency to be able to switch off more than they realize that they're doing. Oh, we're gone again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's okay. We'll carry on and we'll edit that bit out. Don't you worry. So carry on. Yeah, tell us.
yeah. So we're blowing the stats out. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go on. Just start that bit again. Go from the stats bit.
Yeah. So So stat wise, we've changed a lot of stats there nationally. We've blown a lot out of the water. The stats, of under 10% attending wellbeing events.
Mm.
So unless it's attached to work or something like that. So, 32% was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely
From
brilliant.
like men put people on pedestals, like sports personalities on pedestals. And mental health doesn't discriminate. They've got their stories, and to get them to promote action, if we could interview these people from their club, past and present, and yeah, it wasn't about their story. It's more about how they manage it.
Okay.
What do they do? And hopefully they'll listen a bit more than maybe someone else because they're their idols. They put them on a pedestal and go, well, I didn't know they were feeling that way. God went through that, and this is what they did. So I'm going to try it. I think what we're trying to do at these events is trying to kick something. Here you go. Here's a plethora of therapies, activities, tips, advice, experiences. Just go and fill your boots
Yeah.
and find out what suits you and change life, for the positive.
Yeah. Because it's those connections you meet along the way, isn't it? It's that networking as well for people who are in the business to be able to go and talk to each other and support each other. I know that so many collaborations have happened since that event where people are actually pulling together to do other events and things. In fact, that's something that you and I are helping each other with It's Mental and the event that I'm putting on in November, the great big Yawn Mental Health Fest.
Yeah.
Because it's got to the stage where sometimes it's a great big yawn, but there is more behind that title. So all the things that we're doing and working together and pulling together can only help the greater community, really, as we start to do all this and implement all this.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us, is it okay now? Can we go to Rivington? I'm dying to go to Rivington. I'm so excited about Rivington.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Rivington was obviously a special place. I mean, I spent a lot of my time up there over the last 5 years with Luna here, which is my release. And there's a lot of transition that they did in Rivington. They've uncovered it over the last 5 to 6 years and dug it all out. And now they've got these fantastic lawns, which was, an house by I think it was Liverzoom, who had all the Chinese gardens and had built his house on the side of a hill. And he really looked after his staff, and he created Port Sunlight in the world, where there's, it still stands today, which was housing for his staff, really, to create him a quality of life and obviously our balance.
Yeah.
So, and obviously where he lived his life and what he's built around there is just absolutely amazing to do that in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and man-made waterfalls and lakes and things like that.
I mean, you can only imagine what that must have been like in that era, having been up to Rivington and see the parts that they've uncovered. And it's like they've got all these little summer houses with the great big lawns in front, isn't it? But you can go up onto this like pedestal of the summer house, and it's like a stage up at the top, isn't it? But the views over Bolton are just incredible, really, really stunning.
Yeah,
the place itself has its own magical feel.
I mean, the timing of Rivington Heritage Trust speaking to them, and they just come to a decision at that particular time as a committee that there was wanting to rent it out to third parties. And we've had so much support, including yourself, and the main thing for that is it is a not-for-profit event, so we do want people to support it. And I do feel it'll go, what we started is just doing the gardens, which has moved on. Like, got the Anderton Centre involved doing water sports, water activities. We've got Go Ape doing all the, the tree climbing nets and zip lines and things like that. And then you've got that does animal sensory. We've just got phoned up by Rivington Primary School, who moved the annual fete to the same day. Wow. So they can become part of a creation zone.
Oh wow, fantastic.
So yeah, it's really, so now we're taking over quite a big part of Rivington, and we've had so much good support from United Utilities, who own it. So to get that support as well of what we're doing and what they believe in what we're doing, and hopefully, we'll be doing this for years to come. It's not just a one-off event. I feel this will be, an annual thing. It better be for the effort we've put in. So absolutely. We have this longevity out of it for people to come to. But there's just so much. I mean, the knowledge college alone that we've got some fantastic speakers.
So who are the speakers? Sorry.
So we've got yourself, obviously.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
You're gonna have to. You put me on the spot now because I've got to get my list. Bear with me a second, but we have got some really good talks. So we've got belief coding, which is really good. Taking back control with crystals,
Yeah.
That's a big part, which again, understanding the power of crystals, like we obviously have them in tech and in microchips and in watches and
Yeah.
things like that. And people need to understand it, how powerful it really is. Find your confidence. These are for families, so they are quite interactive and just, not for adults.
Yeah.
This is the good thing. Families can monitor their green footprint, if what they're growing, if they cycle to work or school, how they eat, how often they walk, loads of different things.
So you've got some amazing speakers there on so many different subjects. I know I'm really looking forward to this event. I think it's going to be absolutely fabulous for the area, for Bolton, for Bury, for Greater Manchester, for Lancashire, because it connects so many different areas, I think, does Rivington. And because it's a family-based event, I think the scope of people that you are going to attract into this wonderful, beautiful, stunning, gorgeous, relaxing place is extremely exciting.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much for everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, I know there's a lot of spiritual stuff there, but also there's so many activities, nutrition advice, a lot of fun that come day. And I think that's what we want is wanting people to have memories, make memories on the day.
Yeah.
That's really important, which is our catch line for the day, is let's make memories. So, we're hoping that people really enjoy it. We feel it's really different to what is out there.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of a festival feel, but it's
Yeah.
also got a bit of an activity feel to it as well. So
Yeah. And it's I mean, the thing that I'm going to be talking about, which is super learning for kids, is I think is also the whole experience for the day for me, because I know I'm going to be learning an awful lot about other people, what they've got available, meeting new people. So I know I'm going to be learning, and I'm going to be there as a facilitator as well. But we shouldn't ever stop wanting to learn, and we should be excited about that and look forward to that and be curious about the possibilities of how we can do that moving forward together as a family. And I think that is the joy of what you're putting together and the scope of so many different people. I do want to say that I'm particularly excited because I know I'm bringing something very, very new for me to be able to present, and also I think definitely for the area, because I'm going to be showing or talking about how we can actually teach our young children to read whilst they're blindfolded.
oh
And
wow.
it's happening. It is happening. And some
Right.
children are reading or picking up colours and shapes from the very first lesson. And
Wow.
it is helping those children. It's so emotional, and it's such an emotional, heartfelt subject that you can't help but get emotionally caught up in it, because it is helping children who may have stutters, bedwetting, confidence issues, who are struggling with the reading but are actually moving literally within weeks up the scale back up to their age group reading potential or beyond. It's helping in
Wow.
so many different
Wow.
ways, just through this very simple but very loving and non-judgmental technique. So I'm really excited about bringing that forward to its mental, because it is pretty mental.
Yeah,
Just the
yeah, it
thought
is.
of it, just the thought of it
Yeah,
is pretty mental. So it all seems to fit in quite nicely.
yeah. No, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's exciting. I mean, the schedules are nearly done and the schedules, but they'll be on the website this weekend. So, for people to have a look at that at www.itsmental.com/family wellbeing festival. There's a lot on there now, but it'd be a bit more detail of people and what they're talking about, etc., in different zones and different areas. So yeah, it's jam-packed. So it's going to be a special day.
Well, Stephen, I can't wait, and I'm sure everyone else can't. All the details are going to go into the podcast. This is going to go as far and as wide as I can get it for you. We
Oh,
are
thank you.
looking forward to it very much over here, and I shall see you very soon. Thank you very much for coming on board, and good luck with the rest of the organisation.
Oh, thank you, Rachel.
Take care,
Yeah,
my love.
yeah, thank you.
Take care.